Welcome to video 32 of Gamer to Game Developer Series 1, and in this video we're going to implement our finishing touches. So what will that involve? Well, some pretty fun sort of stuff we've saved to the end, and that is we'll do a bit of server optimization, very simple stuff. We'll basically turn off detail, we'll turn off wind, and we'll disable any audio on the server itself. Then we'll just do a really quick edit to the BlasterScript to make it move faster. Then we'll implement lens flare, we'll do a bit of light mapping, and then finally we'll add our final little feature to the player so that way we know what the front side of the player is when we're looking at another player. Okay, so let's go to our very first step, which is to optimize our server. I've made 3 scripts for optimizing our server, and they are the detail script, the disable audio listener script, and the win script. Now by optimization, it is a pretty simple optimization, but it does affect the server's performance. So for the terrain, I'll go ahead and select that, and I'll drop in the detail script. Then I'll click on the wind game object and drop in the wind script. So the detail script is the one that has the most effect. And finally, I'll click on the main camera and drop in the disable audio listener script. Okay, now let me just quickly go over what they do. So I'll just open up the detail script, and I have all 3 open. And this script, as you just saw, was attached to the terrain, and its purpose is simply to deactivate grass or foliage in the scene. So all I do is if the network type of this game instance is a server, then all we do is just turn off the detail. So we just set detail, object distance, and density to 0, and that's it. Then I just say enabled is equal to false, so the script stops running, and that is it. So then the server has no grass on it, and you don't have to have the server worrying about moving grass or anything like that. So it's a lot less load on it. Then we have the disable audio listener script. All that is, it simply just turns off the sound on the server. All I do is, if it is a server type, the game instance, then audio listener.pause is true, and that effectively turns off sound on the server. So that way, you know, when you have a server open and you're also a player playing a game, you won't hear a double up of sound. That way you'll only hear sound from your player. So it's not really improving the performance of the server, but it's getting rid of that sound if you're playing on the same computer. And of course, if it's just a client, then just disable this script outright. It doesn't need to run any further. And you'll notice I always put it in the update function, and the reason for that is that, you know, when you open up the game, you aren't connected to a server, nor are you a player. You actually have to set up a server or connect to a server. And this script is basically, it's searching, it's waiting for you to do that. Once you do that, then this code will work. Okay, then our wind script, which was attached to the wind game object, is quite simply just, well, it just disables the wind game object. Basically, that's why we have here game object.active is equal to false. So if it's a server, then just disable the game object, and there's no wind on the server whatsoever. Okay, so that's it for those scripts. That was really simple. So let's move to the next step. We're on to step 2, which is to edit the BlasterScript. Okay, let's open up the BlasterScript, and I just want to make a really simple change. I just want to change the projectile speed from 10 meters per second to 35. Since testing is over now, while playing around with the script, I want the BlasterScript, well, the blaster to fly faster, to be more effective in game. Alright, so that's it for this step. Let's move to the next step. We're on to our 3rd step, which is to implement lens flare. Go to Assets, Import Package, and import the light flares. So let's import everything, and it will be placed in a standard assets folder, but we'll create an empty game object. I'll name it lens flare, and I'll add a lens flare component by going to Components, Rendering, Lens Flare. Okay, and I'll change the flare type to a 50mm zoom, and you can see it there on the screen appearing, and I'll set it to directional, so the direction of it is important. And the position of it I've determined by trial and error what it is, and it is I guess you try and place it in front of the sun in the skybox. So you can see there in this skybox the sun is there, so you would try and place the lens flare, well, this type of lens flare, in front of that sun in the picture. So that's what we'll do. I know what the figures are. I was playing around with it and got them. So X is -65, Y I place high up into the sky at 1000, and Z I'll put to 190, and then I need to change the rotation values as well. So X is 80, then I need to change Y to 180, it's getting close, and Z I'll change to 180 as well. And there we go. So that is our lens flare, which is pretty neat. It looks really nice, actually. Okay, so that was really simple. We added a lens flare. So as you saw, to get the position of the lens flare right, it is a bit of a trial and error. And there are other types of lens flares. So if your skybox doesn't have a sun in it, you could actually create a lens flare called sun, and you could make that sun go across the sky, and well, that would look really neat if you made it like that. And I do recall there are tutorials out there that do describe how to do that, which is really neat. Okay, so let's go to the next step. We're on to our fourth step, which is to implement light mapping. Okay, let's open up a new window. So go to Window and click on Light Mapping. So that's our light mapping window, and I want to place it here as a tab on the right side. So there we go. That's our light mapping window. Now select the terrain. Okay, that's good. I want to make sure that it is static and the size of the light map is correct at 1024. Okay, now let's select our main light, so the directional light. This is what's going to be used to create that light map. And let me just check some of the parameters here. So I won't change any of that. What should I change? Should I change, whoops, change it to auto? No, I'll leave it at auto. Baked shadows, yeah, I should change that. I should change it to on real-time hard shadows. Okay, and do I need to change anything else? Let me see. I can probably leave it as it is and then just bake it. So let me just click on the Bake tab to see if I have any other options. Yes, I do. I do have quite a few other options, but I will just go ahead and hit Bake. Alright, and then it'll take a while. It'll appear down below as it's baking how long it's going to take. So I'll come back when it's done. Okay, I've come back and the light mapping is complete. It took a couple of minutes. And you can see now on our terrain that, well, there are shadows under the trees now. It looks especially nice where there's grass. Like, it looks convincing. It looks like there's shadow on the grass, which is really nice. And yeah, okay, so that's our light mapping done. It just makes the level look just a little bit more interesting. And of course, yeah, we need Unity Pro in order to have real-time shadows, like for our players or anything in the game anyway. Okay, so that is our light mapping done. Really simple light map. Let's go ahead. I'll just click the Inspector tab again. So if I have the light mapping, then that light map display is going to be there. So I'll click the Inspector tab and remove that. Okay, so let's go on to our next step. We're on to our very last step in Series 1, which is to implement the pointer. Now this pointer is simply going to be a little gray block that's sitting on the front of the player. So that way we can see other players, we can see what the front side of them is. So if other players are facing us, we can see that they're facing us. That's what this is all about. And what we're going to do is we'll attach a simple script called hide my pointer to our own player, well, it'll be on all the players, but it'll only run on our player, and it'll simply hide that pointer, because otherwise the pointer will get in the way of our camera. Okay, so let's go ahead and start making it. So I'll go over to game object, create other, and I'll create a cube, and I'll rename this. So I'll just call it pointer. And I'll delete this collider here, don't need that. I'll reset its position, and I'll change its scale. So the X will be 0.1, Y will be 0.1, and Z will be 0.075. Okay, and I'm going to now attach it to the players. So first of all, drag in the player blue prefab into the hierarchy panel. Let's zoom in on them. Okay, so I can see the pointer down here. It's right below. It's a little gray block. So let's move its position. So I'll change the Y position to be, say, maybe 0.3. Okay, I'll hit enter. It'll be inside the player now. So let me just check the player's position. The player is 0.5. So I'll probably want that like 0.8. Yeah, 0.8, because I want it at like the eye level of the player. I'll see. I'll just play around with it. So I'll set Z to 0.13 so it sticks out at the front of the player. And yes, we can see that now. There we go. So that's it. That is our pointer sticking out on the front of the player. And yeah, it's at the correct height. That's what I'm after. Okay, so I'll duplicate it. Control D. I'll drop this one. Well, no, wait a minute. First of all, attach the script. Yes. Oh, well, I'll attach the script to the player rather than to the pointer itself, because that way I'll be able to avoid having to attach a network view component to the pointer as well. So I'll just drop this pointer into the player blue. Yep, continue. And I will then also attach the script as well, which is hide my pointer. So I'll scroll down to the bottom for our player and drop in hide my pointer. And then I'll hit apply and save the prefab. Okay, and I'll delete the player blue. Now I'll drag in the red player, so player red. And I'll do exactly the same thing. I'll simply just grab this pointer and drop it into the player red, since, you know, my blue and red players have exactly the same position in the game world. Okay, and once again for our player red, let's drop in that script, hide my pointer. Alright, and there we go. So, and oh yeah, of course I better hit apply for the prefab and save it. So hit apply and delete the red player. Okay. So I guess I should open up hide my pointer and just briefly go over it. It's our last script, and all it is, this script, as you saw, was attached to the players. And in the start function we have here if network view.isMine is false. So for every other player that isn't us, this script is going to disable itself immediately in the start function, so the update function won't be called. But for us, since this would be true, it won't get disabled. Then what's going to happen in the update function is the pointer will be accessed and its renderer disabled, and then the script disabled, so it doesn't continue to run. And that's it. So then the pointer will disappear on our own player and it won't obstruct our camera. Okay, so we've done that, so we've completed everything. Well, then we might as well build and run. So let's go ahead and build and run. Let's set up a server, and I will also have another copy open as well. I'll need that so I can see the pointer on another player. So I will open up that other copy and connect as, oh, it doesn't matter, red team, all teams are fine here. And let's go ahead and go back to the editor. I'll just increase this view a bit so I have more viewing. decrease that, hit the play button, and I guess I'll just connect to the blue team and, well, go on over. So it's a bit of a distance. Oh, I might as well shoot at that other player just for the heck of it. Oh, I missed. Alright, and there we go. So, well, that's the other player. We can see that they have a pointer. And if I just jump to us in the editor itself, you'll be able to see that we don't have, well, a pointer on our own cells, just like the script intended. Yep, so it's hidden so it doesn't obstruct our camera. Alright, and in the other game, I'll just check. Yep, we can see that the blue player that we were just playing with has a pointer. Alright, and that's great. So we've completed everything. We've got our lens flare working nicely. We can see that there's shadows on the grass even, which looks really nice. And oh yeah, I should have pointed out, you know, in the server, there's no grass anywhere and the trees aren't moving. Okay, so I'll shut this all down. We're done. And that's it. Well, all good things have to come to an end, and we've pretty much reached the end of Series 1. There's nothing more new to add to it. And if you followed this video, well, this series all the way from the beginning and all the way to now, well, you've just done so much. Like, there's so much stuff that we have done. I mean, you can look by the number of scripts. Can you remember when we were in video 2 how it all started out with creating a gray plane and a yellow cube and having our simple player running around, and the first script that we made was the camera script. If I can even remember what it was called. Yes, I'm pretty sure it was called the camera script. Yeah, that's it right there. That was our very first script that we made all the way back in video 2. And then as the videos progressed, we added more and more. We built our multiplayer system all the way to video 10. That was the core of our multiplayer system implemented. And after video 10, we started to add all sorts of non-essential things, but fun things that add a bit more to our prototype game. So now we actually have a prototype game that we can play. It's not necessarily a lot of fun to play. You can imagine it's going to get boring pretty quickly because there's just not much to do. So you've just got a few weapons, but it's not weapons. It's about the fun of a game that makes it fun. So whatever it is that makes games fun and interesting. But what we have done is we've achieved a technical feat and learning. So if you're like me and you're someone who hasn't ever built a full-on prototype game before and you have a multiplayer system running there in the background keeping your game together, well, then it really is something that has been achieved there, because you can now use this. You could essentially change these scripts, you can edit them, you can use the concepts that you've learned here to build your own game components. So you could write your own scripts based off these ones, you can edit them, you can expand upon them, because they're all pretty basic. You'll have noticed throughout this series I've generally tried to keep everything as simple as possible. Like, I've tried to keep it minimal. Like, for example, our let's say like all our GUIs and stuff, we've kept it as they are, the Unity GUIs. We've kept all our scripts as simple as possible. Like, you know, for example, our communication window, combat window, there's no fancy stuff because I didn't want to clutter it all up, each of the scripts up with a lot of code and bore you out completely. All you need to see is the basics, and from there you can really build upon that. So for me, this has taken me, let me think, it's taken me probably a year and a half to produce this. So I must have spent, let me think, I started recording the videos in February and I started developing this project probably in April in 2011. So from April 2011 all the way to September 2012, yeah, that's quite a long while. So it took me that much time to actually develop Series 1 and then produce all the videos. So it's been a big learning curve for me as well, because I've never actually recorded videos before. It was all new. I was wondering, what software do you use, etc. What kind of hardware do you need to actually record sound properly? It's actually a lot of stuff to think about. And well, also, you know, using Unity, learning how to use it, learning coding, etc. for in C#, which I hadn't really used prior to 2011. So it was all very interesting for me. So I really do hope that you've benefited a lot from this project. And if you followed all the way from the beginning, I'm really interested to see actually what you've developed at the end. Like, go ahead and go to the Unity forums and post up screenshots or videos of what you've achieved by watching the series. I'm really interested, because as someone who's actually trying to teach people about, well, how to develop what I've just showed you throughout this series, I'm really interested to see what my learners have actually done with what they've taken away. For me, it's very interesting. I'd really like to see what you've done. So if you've gone through and built something, even it looks totally different, actually even if it looks totally different, that I find that even more interesting, then please do actually post up some screenshots or videos or whatever onto the Unity forums thread for Gamer to Game Developer. Okay, so that's pretty much it. I can't think of anything else that I needed to tell you. So for this video, that's it. And in video 33, that's simply, there's no new content added there. In video 33, that's where I just talk about how to use Hamachi to set up a game, or how you can set up a multiplayer game over LAN. So you've reached the end of this series, basically. Video 34, I'll talk a bit about, you know, where I'll be going, what projects am I intending in the future. It'll be pretty rough, probably wouldn't be too specific. Now, I have been asked by quite a few viewers about whether I'm making a series 2 or when that will be, or, you know, and there have been suggestions of what should be in it. What I'll say for now is that don't expect any series 2 anytime soon. Just think that series 1 took like ages before I even started making the videos. So I'd say just think in terms of that. By video 34, the video 34 might come out a bit later from this video, and there I'll probably have a clearer concept of what I'm intending in the future. Okay, so as usual, thank you for watching, and I wish you all the best in your future projects.